Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in my quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Good to have you guys here today on this Friday. Been a busy week, so everybody's got the day off, except for me. I am here so we can talk about some movie stuff. Good to have you guys here, and here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take some of your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, or question for the show, as long as I deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And here's the good news about this tip link. It's good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that means if you're listening to the show on our podcast feed, either on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of your favorite podcasting app of choice, and by the way, guys, you can listen to the John Campea Show only in podcast feed if you'd like, then you can send in a question too. Or if you're watching the show a little bit later on in the day when we're not live, you can also send in a question and we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode if you're not sending it in while we're live. All right, guys. With that down, let's get started on a couple of things here, shall we? And I want to start off with this. You know, Joker 2 is something we've been talking a lot about. I was tremendously disappointed in the film. I thought it was just terrible. Like, not Madam Web terrible, but terrible nonetheless. I thought it was a really bad movie. And I was particularly disappointed because I love the first one so much. Like, I just think the first one is so freaking good. I just can't even put it into words. You know, won a bunch of Academy Awards, nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. Joaquin Phoenix won the Academy Award for Best Lead Actor, made over $1 billion. First R-rated film in history to win over $1 billion. And then the second one sucked. You know, I saw an article online last night, and I can't quite remember which outlet it was from. But basically they were suggesting about how, oh, you know, maybe the ending of one movie would have fit in better with another. And it kind of revolved around one thing. And it got me thinking about something else. And it got me thinking that, you know what? The ending of Joker 2, and we will go into a spoiler here, just to give you guys a heads up. We're going to go into a spoiler about the ending of Joker 2, okay? Just giving you fair warning. But the ending of Joker 2 would have been much better if that was something they wanted to do as the ending of Joker 1. Here's what I mean. Now, I did give you guys the spoiler warning here, okay? So here's this. At the ending of Joker 2, Arthur is stabbed to death in the prison by another crazy guy. And then following stabbing Arthur to death, the crazy guy takes the knife, starts to laugh, ha 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 ha, and he starts to cut a smile into his face. The implication here is that that guy is actually the Joker that we would normally associate with Joker, and that Arthur, the way Todd Phillips always kind of implied, was never the Joker we kind of did that. Riz is saying there are reports saying that Nolan didn't let Todd use the scar and the smiles. That's false. I know there's a report going around saying that. It's false. You know why? Because Christopher Nolan has no say in the matter. Christopher Nolan doesn't own the character of Joker. Christopher Nolan is not an executive at Warner Brothers. I saw that report going around. Not true, because Christopher Nolan has no say in it. He has no authority to say what another movie using the Joker character can or cannot do. So he has no control over that. Now, I mean, it might be true that, you know, he expressed to Warner Brothers that he wouldn't want them to do that. And then maybe Warner Brothers decided, well, you know what, let's just keep Chris happy and do that. But I saw these reports going around that they wanted to do it, but Christopher Nolan wouldn't let them. Christopher Nolan, who is like one of the best filmmakers in the world, I love him, but Christopher Nolan had no say. All he could do is maybe at most say, hey, would you mind not doing that? And then Warner Brothers going maybe, okay, for you, we won't. But he really had no say in it. There was no control. Anyway, So at the end of Joker 2, the other guy kills him, creates a smile. Now, the reason I contend that I think the ending of Joker 2 would have played as a much better ending to Joker 1 has something to do with how bad I think Joker 2 is. Because Joker 2 really isn't about anything. It's not about anything. Whereas the first Joker had so much to say, so many observations, so much social commentary, so much all that kind of stuff. Joker 2 had nothing. And Joker 2, what I said before was, Joker 2 kind of played like how did I put it? You know, at the end of some movies, the screen will go black and then white letters will come up saying, 2 years following these events, such and such character went on to buy a grocery store. And then this character went on to do this. The entire Joker 2 movie played like that. The entire story of Joker 2 could have been played out in just a black screen with white letters. Arthur would spend the next 2 years in Arkham and would face trial and was found guilty of his crimes. And that's it. That could have been the end of it. So anyway, here's why the ending of Joker 2 would have played well as the ending of Joker 1, is because what you could have done is at the end of Joker 1, Joaquin Phoenix, Arthur is in, I think it's Arkham, but he's in prison regardless, right? You could have very easily had another inmate come up to him, say, hey, Arthur, I've got a joke for you, and say the exact same joke, stab him, carve the smile in his face, and then a second Joker movie could have followed that guy. And that movie would have been a much more interesting movie than Joker 2, right? Would have been much better than Joker 2. So had they done that, it would have made more sense, it would have flowed better, and it ultimately would have given us a second movie worth watching. Because this Joker movie was just, okay, we left Arthur in jail. Where is he now? Oh, he's still in jail. And then he goes to court, and then they just say a bunch of things in court that we already knew because we saw the first movie. And then he's found guilty. Oh, but then he escapes, but for 5 minutes, and he's put right back in there. So if they had killed him off at the end of the first film with the other crazy guy who turns out to be the quote unquote real Joker, and then if they had an idea to follow that up to follow that guy, I just think we would have ended up with a much more interesting film. It's going to be interesting to see how Joker 2 does on its second weekend at the box office, because not a ton of people went to go see it on its first week. So it might have a pretty okay second weekend drop off, or maybe it'll be a horrendous second weekend drop off. I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down. Let's go on to this, shall we? There's a really interesting, I'm not going to call it an outlet, but there's a really interesting newsletter out there called Puck that a lot of industry people read. It's actually really quite good. They got a couple of really good writers on there. I read them at least 3 times a week. Anyway, one of their guys, Matt Bellani, just brought up an interesting situation. Now, here's the background. Netflix is great. They do a lot of great things. I watch Netflix a lot. They're very successful. Took them a lot of years to get to this point, but this point is where they're at. A lot of success, doing well. But one of the things that they continue to do that frustrates me as a fan of theirs is their absolute refusal to embrace a theatrical model, right? Even though they have toyed with the theatrical model and saw incredible success, and that their refusal to experiment more with the theatrical model is causing them headaches, yet they still very stubbornly stomp their foot down, cross their arms, say, no, we're not a theatrical company. Okay. Well, in Puck, Matt Bellani wrote a really interesting bit here about how it's causing them some struggles to pick up some movies because some movies simply don't want to go to Netflix because they know Netflix won't give them a theatrical release. And how some of the filmmakers who do work at Netflix are continuing to be frustrated at the point that they know their films will not get a theatrical release. Here's what Matt Bellani wrote, and I think this is really interesting. So I'm going to read it a little bit at length. Follow along with me here. So they write this. Netflix's no theater issue strikes again. Dan Lin, Dan Lin, the new head of Netflix's film unit, is quickly becoming familiar with the downside of refusing to put movies in theaters. According to 3 sources, Lin has bid more than $150 million for Saltburn filmmakers Emerald Fennell's planned adaptation of Wuthering Heights with Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi set to star in. That is far more than other bidders are bidding for the project. But Fennell and Margot Robbie, who's also producing, fear that the movie will not have the same cultural impact without a theatrical release and marketing campaign that their rivals, Netflix's rivals, are offering them. And let's be honest, they're right. He's right. They are right. Similar concerns are playing out with Netflix's big Chronicles of Narnia movie, which Barbie director Greta Gerwig has been signed on to write and direct since back in 2020. Gerwig has also been raising concerns to Lin about the theater issue. Given the scope and grandeur of the material, it's all been friendly requests so far. Demands and screaming isn't really Gerwig's style, but she's clearly bummed about the platform she's being offered. And not offered. Netflix, which has the rights to all the Narnia books, would very much like to give an A-list director what she wants, but then again, theaters are not their model. So, this whole thing about them not wanting to put any movies in theaters is causing them troubles and headaches, and this isn't the first time, of getting the movies they want to get and keeping A-list talent from being happy working with them or for continuing to want to work with them. And it's a problem that's only going to get worse. Now, some people may ask, why do you think they have this philosophy? I'll tell you why they do. Because to Netflix, I want you to hear this. Having something new is more important than having something good. Let me repeat that. To Netflix and their model, having something new is more important than having something good. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that to Netflix's model, and if you are a subscriber to Netflix, and I know most of you are, you know that they are constantly just throwing up new content all the time. And always having fresh content for the consumers to digest is a higher priority to Netflix than having good quality content. Now, don't get me wrong. Netflix is not against good quality. If Netflix can have both, if they can have something new and something good, absolutely they will. I'm not suggesting that Netflix is against having good stuff. Not at all. They would love to have all their new stuff also be great stuff. But Netflix's model means if they have to prioritize one over the other, they will always prioritize putting out a ton of new stuff, whether it's good or not, as opposed to taking the time and doing the things they need to do to have good stuff. Netflix is so wrapped up in the idea that they hate the movie theater so much, and they hate the theatrical experience so much. They're so wrapped up in the idea that they want to be a disruptor and kill the movie industry, that even if it's in their best interests, they'll overlook it. And they'll oversee it. See, one of the reasons why 9 out of every 10 original Netflix movies completely suck is because to Netflix's model, they don't need the content to be good. They just need people to click on it and watch it. And if they click on it and watch it, great. If they click on it and then immediately go away from it, no big deal. You know why? Because people watching it doesn't make them money. People subscribing makes money. And I've been saying for a long time that a pure streaming model, remember my point of view here, I believe theatrical and streaming are two sides to one coin. We as film fans and the movie industry is a healthier, better place when not just theaters, not just streaming, but theaters and streaming are working together. Movies get a healthy theatrical run, then they go and have great success on streaming. The two are two sides of the same coin. But to Netflix, who I watch a lot of, and I'm a fan, I've been a subscriber to Netflix for many years, back when they were still just a DVD rental company. But to Netflix, all they care about is new people subscribing. And what gets new people subscribing to them is just new content, constant new content. There's always something new to watch on Netflix. Whether it's good or not is not really important. And I've always said that a complete reliance on nothing but the streaming model will eventually get a decline more and more and more in the quality of the movies. Why? Because the quality of the movie doesn't help Netflix that much, whereas quality of movies in theaters certainly helps them a lot. The better a movie is, the more money we'll make. Not that all good movies make money, but if a movie's good, it made more money than it would have if it was bad. You know what I'm saying? Like Transformers 1 is great and it's not making a lot of money. But if Transformers 1 was a terrible movie, it would have made even less than it has. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. And bad movies can have big box office, but if they were also good movies, they would have made more at the box office. You see what I'm saying? And here's the thing too. Netflix is so committed to wanting to be a disruptor, even though they played around with theatrical and had success, they're still not embracing it. Check this out. This is important, all right? Look at this. So this is a list of the most viewed movies of 2023. In about 4 months, we'll have the list of the most viewed movies of 2024. But for now, the most streamed movies of 2023. All right. I want you to look at this list. Okay. The number one most streamed movie was Moana. We all know that. The next biggest streamed movie was Encanto. The next most streamed movie was Super Mario Brothers. The next most streamed movie was Elemental. The next most streamed movie was Minions, The Rise of Gru. The next was Sing 2, then Frozen, then Black Panther Wakanda Forever, then Avatar The Way of Water, and then Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery. Now, Super Mario Brothers was a mix of Netflix and Peacock, right? Because it was on Peacock, it was on Netflix, and it's on Peacock, and it got all that kind of stuff. But I want you to notice the only movie on this list, that is just a Netflix movie, is Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery. Why is that important? Because it's the only movie they put in theaters. Granted, it was a limited release. It was. But they put it out. They dipped their toe in the water and they put it out. And lo and behold, the most watched streaming movie that Netflix had was the one they actually put in theaters. The argument that I and people like Rob and whatever that we've been having and making for a couple of years now is to streamers that, hey guys, if you want your streaming movies to be really big and successful on streaming, like bigger than they normally would be, put them in theaters first. When you put the movies in theaters first, they do even better on streaming. It's not either or. Remember I said at the beginning, two sides of the coin, theatrical and streaming? They're two sides of the same coin. You put movies in theaters first, and your streaming will be even bigger and better. I want you to look at this as well. Every single one of the movies, this is the top 10 list of the most streamed movies of the year. The most streamed movies of the year. Moana, Encanto, Super Mario Brothers, Elemental, Minions Rise of Gru, Sing 2, Frozen, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Avatar The Way of Water, Glass Onion, Knives Out Mystery. They were all theatrically released films first. Encanto had a bit of a mixed release, but still in theaters. Marketing campaign got a theatrical release. Every single movie of the most streamed, you want your movies to be streamed more? Put them in theaters first. Data after data point after data point after data point all point to the same thing. When you put your movies in theaters first, they will do even better on streaming. And the fact that Netflix's most streamed movie just happened to be one that they did put in theaters should say something to them. It should say something to them. Now, look, I was having a good discussion with my business guy earlier today. Am I saying that every single movie should go to theaters first? No, absolutely not. 100%. There are absolutely some streaming movies or some movies made by streamers that'll just be better off going straight to streaming. There are. I'm not saying there's not. There 100% are. But if you want to be a serious player in the movie arena, and you want your movies on your streaming service to really explode, put them in theaters first. When Netflix gets over itself, and when Netflix pulls their heads out of their asses and realize that simple truth, frankly, it is scary how big Netflix could explode. It really is. If Netflix actually got serious about, because they're great at making series. I mean, Netflix making series, they're fabulous at it. They really are. But if they want to get, but most of their movies completely suck. Not all of them. Some of them are great, but most of them complete garbage. If they got serious about it and gave a theatrical release first to the movies they're really serious about and see how they explode, and then more and more people in the world who may not be Netflix subscribers yet going like, oh, that huge movie that was in theaters, now it's only on Netflix, subscribe. I just think they could be even bigger and dominate the space even more than they already are. Instead, they are biting their own hands, hurting the movie industry as a whole, and overall decreasing the quality of content that we as consumers get. And so, again, to Netflix, having something new is more important than having something good. I hope they can get over that mentality and embrace theatrical, because their own data has shown them that when they put something in theaters first, it works. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about that? I mean, all the information is right there, and they're having troubles, like according to Puck, landing a movie that they want because they were not a theatrical company. Their own filmmakers that are under contract with them right now are kind of unhappy. Doesn't matter. We're not a theatrical company. Imagine if they say, you know what? It's not that we're a theatrical company, and it's not that we're a streaming company. If Netflix would just look in the mirror and say, we're an entertainment company. Most of our entertainment is done through streaming, but we dabble in this. If Netflix would just say we're an entertainment company and embrace the distribution models, I just think they could have even more success than they're already enjoying. And they're enjoying a lot. But anyway, that's just kind of my take on that. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got to talk about the news that came out yesterday that Henry Cavill, my boy, Henry, is going to be starring in the upcoming live-action Voltron movie. And we're going to be taking a lot of questions from you guys as well. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Tile Trackers and Acorns. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Life 360 Tile Trackers. So when I go out, I often bring my little backpack satchel. It's small and just big enough to hold my iPad, a backup battery, my wallet, and a few other things. Anyway, last year at a poker tournament, I thought I lost it. I freaked out for over an hour until I finally realized I had left it in the car. I wish that I had Life 360 Tile Trackers back then. And that's why you need Life 360's Tile Trackers. It's perfect for keeping track of all the important stuff that always seems to go missing. Keys, wallets, backpacks, you name it. If something's nearby, just ring your tile through the app, and if it's far away, you can track it on the map. Super simple. I've even got an electric bike that I keep in my backyard that would be pretty expensive to replace, so I slapped a tile tracker on that too. instant peace of mind. And here's another thing I love. Unlike some other trackers, Tile won't alert thieves with notifications. It's great for families because it's not just about tracking stuff, it's about that peace of mind. So if you're ready to family-proof your family, head to tile.com and use the code Campea to get 15% off your Tile trackers today. That's tile.com, code Campea. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Acorns. Hey guys, John here. I want to talk about something that I've been using that really simplifies saving and investing. Acorns. Now, I know a lot of you might find investing intimidating. Maybe you don't know where to start, or you think you need a ton of money to make it worthwhile, but trust me, I've been there. And that's why I love Acorns. Acorns makes it super easy to automatically save and invest. And the best part, you can get started with just your spare change. Literally, Acorns takes that leftover change from everyday purchases and invests it for you. Acorns builds a portfolio specifically for you based on your money goals, and then it automatically invests your money for you. You don't need to be an expert at all. For me, it was an absolute game changer. When I got started, I was busy. I didn't have time to sit around managing my investments, but I still wanted my money to have a chance to grow. Acorns took care of that for me effortlessly. So if you're ready to start investing in your future, head to acorns.com/Campea or download the Acorns app to start today. Client testimonial. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Tile Trackers and Acorns for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, they announced a while ago with some enthusiasm that finally, after many, many, many years that everybody's been waiting, that a live-action Voltron movie was going to happen. Now, if you're like me, those of us who've been waiting for something like this for a long time took that with a grain of salt, because we've heard a couple of times over the years of projects, specifically Voltron was actually moving and then never would. And then projects like Robotech and Macross and stuff like that were happening and then never did. But this time they said they actually had a director, Rawson Marshall Thurber, who unfortunately directed Red Notice, which I did not like. And he also directed the other Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie, Skyscraper, which I don't think was very good. But he also directed Central Intelligence, which I'll be honest with you, I really liked. I really like Central Intelligence. But more importantly, he directed two films I straight up love. He directed We're the Millers, and he directed Dodgeball. I think Dodgeball is great, and I really liked We're the Millers. So, I mean, there's some potential there. Then the other day, they announced that they cast that kid that none of us had ever heard of, but he's clearly talented because he's a stage performer. He was an understudy for Tom Holland in his show in London. So that was good. But now the big news has come out. Henry Cavill, my boy, Henry, has been cast as the lead in the new Voltron movie. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, who said the following: Amazon MGM Studios' giant robot Voltron movie is getting a Man of Steel. Damn right. Henry Cavill, the Superman actor and star of The Witcher, at least was the star of The Witcher, has come aboard to top line in the live-action feature based on the mecha anime that Rawson Marshall Thurber is directing. The actor joins Daniel Quinn Toy, who we talked about already, the newcomer who impressed the studio and director with his West End work opposite Tom Holland in leading the roll call. Voltron, now I'm going to butcher a lot of the words here. Voltron is based on the Japanese sci-fi series Beast King Go Lion and Kiku Kantai Dairuger 15 world events, edited and dubbed the series as a syndicated show, naming it Voltron Defender of the Universe, which I and a lot of you watched as kids all the time. The premise centered on 5 young pilots in a battalion named the Robot Lions, which are vehicles that join together to form a mega robot known as Voltron. And somehow, when he slap his hands together, boom, a big sword would come out. Fabulous. I love Voltron. And one of the big dilemmas for me as an individual is I often go back and forth. Do I prefer the Lion Voltrons? Because remember, there was another Voltron that was formed by, I believe it was 10 individual vehicles. Remember that? There was like 10 of them, and they would also form together, and they also called that Voltron. And I thought it was pretty cool too, but by far the more popular one. Oh, Culture Healers is saying it was 15 of them. Really? Was it 15? I remember 10. You're probably right. Anyway, the Five Lions was a pretty cool thing. All that, but that was back in the day too, when there were a lot of shows that were kind of like that. Did any of you guys? Let me ask you guys in the live chat. Did any of you guys ever watch? There was another giant robot show called Grandizer. Do any of you guys remember that? Like, and whenever there was a blood red moon, that's when Grandizer knew the alien evil race was going to send another giant bad robot. Clark and Risa are all saying, yeah, they remember it. Some of you guys haven't heard, but there was Grandizer, go! I used to love Grandizer. There was also another one. Help me out. There was another one where there was this princess of this dying world, and she had to go out and get these 3 like warriors. It's kind of like 3 musketeers in space, and they all flew different types of ships. And then they would form together to form like a giant, a bigger ship. And that's it, Joseph. Spaceketeers. That's it. I used to love Spaceketeers too. That one was pretty good. Anyway, so, Voltron came out in that whole era when there was a lot of these different kind of shows. And my all-time favorite wasn't a giant robot show, but my all-time favorite coming out of that was Space Battleship Yamato, also known as Star Blazers. If any of you watch Star Blazers, you know what I'm talking about. It was the best. Anyway, Wave Motion Gun. I can sit here and talk about this shit all day. Anyway, so the idea that they're actually finally going to be bringing Voltron, because a little while ago, some of you remember Netflix launched, I think it was Netflix, did a CG Voltron show about like 4 years ago, I think 3 years ago. And it was pretty good. But to actually have a live action one would be great too. Oh yeah. Salam is mentioning G-Force. Yeah, G-Force was me and my friends in my neighborhood. We used to run around playing G-Force. We would grab the bed sheets, make our little capes. Let me see if I can remember all the people in G-Force. There was also, I think the Japanese name for G-Force was Gotcha Man. Oh yeah, Brantis in the live chat knows it. Let me see if I remember them all. Mark was the leader. Jason was the brash guy. Princess was the girl. There was Tiny, who was obviously, because his name is Tiny, he was the biggest guy. He was the main pilot. And then there was Kiop. And I think their little robot that was their guy in the chair. They had a robot called 7 Zark 7. And I know we're supposed to be talking about Voltron, but shut up. It's my show. I'm going to talk about this for a second. So they had a ship. It was a very simple show. They had a ship called the Phoenix. And they basically had one weapon. It was a missile launcher. Just shot pew, pew, little missiles. And they would flip on the case for this big red button when they were going to fire their missiles. But then the Phoenix would turn into this fiery Phoenix and it could fly through anything. Anyway, yeah, me and my friends used to play G-Force all the time. So I totally remember G-Force. And then each of the characters, Mark, Jason, Kiop, Tiny, and Princess, they all had their own individual vehicles as well. Anyway, so Henry Cavill is coming in, and I'll tell you what, I mentioned this the other day when we were talking about the kid being cast. I said, oh my God, because when they announced that they had a director, that's good news, but I still kind of worried that, I'm not going to get my hopes up. Not going to get my hopes up, even though there's a director we've heard over the years about, Voltron's coming and it never did, or by extension, Robotech is coming and it never did. And yeah, I'll believe it. But then they announced the kid. And the kid made me go, oh, this is starting to feel real. When they actually got an actor attached. Now, it was an actor none of us had ever heard of, so it only did so much. But now that the Calvarine has joined. Now that the Calvarine has joined, it feels real to me. It feels so real to me now. Like it's actually happening. It's not something that might happen. It's not something in my head that I'll believe it when I see it. Like, to me now, it's actually real and it's actually happening. And I feel the same way I felt about it when I realized that a live action Transformers movie was actually coming. And I still like the first live action Transformers movie. But this whole idea about what it's going to be like to see on the big screen these giant Cybertronian robots in disguise, I think it was going to be awesome. And I have that same feeling now. The idea of getting, like, imagine this in live action. A city where these 5 giant robot lions are fighting different things. And then when everything looks dark, they form together to make Voltron. And he pulls out, now obviously with his lion, he has weird hands, lion mouth hands. That must be very awkward to scratch your ass with, but whatever. The lion hands, we'll get over that. But they put the hands together, boom, and then whoosh, pull out the sword. How good is that going to look on screen? That is going to look so good. And depending if they put the money behind it. Now you got Amazon and MGM behind it. These are the same people who have given us The Boys. These are the same people who gave us Fallout, and gave us Rings of Power Season 2, which is way better than Rings of Power Season 1. So you got the director who did a couple of bad movies, but a couple of movies I really love. You got an actor who is, I'm not going to say Henry Cavill's one of the best actors in the business, but he's one of my favorites. You've got your cast coming together. You got the studio behind it. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm pretty excited about this. I am pretty damn excited about Voltron. And I don't know what they're going to do as far as how closely are they going to follow the story of the original show. Will they just take the basic premise of the show and then develop their own story? By the way, I think that's the way to go. Take the main premise of the show, but then build your own story around it. I 100%, I think that's the right thing to do. But I mean, we'll see. As long as I hear one guy said, and I'll form the head, which is ridiculous out of context, but hey, it's Voltron. So I'm down for this. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? There is a theory I just saw in the live chat. Somebody's saying Henry's going to be actually the robot. Yeah, Henry's not going to be in the movie as an actor. It's just that when the lines form together, it's just Henry Cavill doing his thing that he did in Mission Impossible. What if Voltron did that? Okay, sure, whatever, Henry. Either way, whatever you guys think about this, jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. I'm so excited about this. I'm actually pretty giddy because here's the thing. Sidebar. I think part of the reason I get so excited about this is because if this works, and I understand it might not, right? Might be a disaster, might be terrible. Sure it can. Okay, but if it works, if this is good and say makes, it doesn't have to be $1 billion film, but let's say it makes $400-500 million. Just play along with me here for a second. If it works, I think it will open the door to increase the chances, not guaranteed, but increase the chances of us getting projects like Star Blazers. I know there was an Asian live action thing of it. It wasn't that great, but to do a full Hollywood production of Star Blazers, to do a modern Hollywood version of G-Force, Gotcha Man, Battle of the Planets, to do a live version of Robotech, to do a live version of Grandizer, or to do a live version of Space Cateers. Again, a successful Voltron doesn't guarantee any of those things happen, but I think, or another one like Zelda Master, Thundercats. Thundercats becomes more of an option. Ultraman becomes more of an option. I mean, all those things become more possible if a Voltron movie can work. And it's one of these situations where it's like the studios are like the Penguins. I'm not talking about the hockey team, the Penguins. I mean, actual penguins. You know how they get to that cliff and they all kind of stand there and they're waiting to see who's going to be the first penguin to dive in to see if there's a seal down there waiting to eat them or not? It looks like Amazon's going to be the first one to dive in and see if they can make this work. I'm just saying, the exciting prospect to me is that if it does, and it might not, but if it does, the chances of all these other properties that I grew up watching and that I grew up loving, it actually becomes a possibility that we could actually see them on the big screen. Don't know if they will or they won't. Again, it's just a possibility. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about all that? Again, jump down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. We're going to move on and start the most important part of our show, which is taking your comments and questions that you guys have sent in. But before we do, we're going to take another quick moment here and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Miracle Made. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to your live questions here, shall we? We're going to get things started off here with Big Dog, who tipped in like $20. Thank you, Big Dog, for supporting us on that level, man. That's incredibly generous of you. And Big Dog writes, hey, hope you're all well. Lifetime Superman fan here again. What do you say to the response James Gunn had to a trailer or teaser possibly being released by the end of the year? Thanks, and have a great weekend to you all. You know, I never really care. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited to see trailers, but I never care about when they come out because trailers are just commercials, right? I'm excited. I like watching them, but I never care when they come out. You put them out whenever you want to put them out. It doesn't make any difference to me. If they want to put out a teaser before the end of the year, that's fine. I just don't see the point. Like, by the end of the year, the movie is still so far away. Because help me out in the live chat, guys. I can't. It's July, right? July is when Superman comes out. It might be June. Something is telling me it might be June, but I think it's July. So, guys, okay. So Dylan is saying yes, July. Okay, thank you for that, Dylan. Appreciate that. So, July 11th. So, if it comes out, let's say it comes out in December. So then January, February, March, April, May, June, July. It's 7 months. What's the point? You're not going to get more people going to see Superman by putting out a first teaser 7 months before the movie comes out. But I mean, listen, if they do, okay. If they got a really big event that they can, couple it with, okay. Personally, I think the prime spot to release your first trailer for Superman is the Super Bowl. Because, again, correct me in the live chat if I'm wrong, but I think Super Bowl is February. So March, April, May, June, July. It's 5 months out from when the movie comes out. Perfect. Sweet spot. Make your first impression on the biggest stage there is, the Super Bowl. Drop that trailer on the Super Bowl when you have the most eyeballs in the world on it. Because, I mean, woo! Ah! And it's the perfect time away. Like, anywhere between, I think the right time to put out your first trailer is between 3 and 5 months out. I think that's when you're going to get your most impact. So it's 5 months out, which is perfect. On Super Bowl, perfect. So, yeah, could they put it out before the end of the year? They could. If James Gunn were to ask me, and you might be surprised to find out that James Gunn does not ask me, which is probably best for everybody. But if James Gunn were to ask me, do you think I should put out our first trailer or teaser before the end of the year? I would say no. As somebody who is dying to see this movie, I would say no. It's too early. It's not going to accomplish anything. Wait until you get a little bit closer. That would be my thing, but it's fine if they do. Totally fine if they do. All right. Next up. Let's see here. That was Big Dog. Next up, we've got Shane Madison, who also sends in a $20 tip. Thank you, Shane, for supporting us on that level, man. And Shane writes, I was thinking about the end of Agatha episode 5, and I realized something. I think you're right. It's a misdirect. Teen isn't Wanda's son. What if Agatha was talking in the third person and meant herself? You're just like your mother. You're just like me. Well, okay. Now, first of all, you can't say I'm right because I don't think that's what they're going to do. I don't think it's a misdirect. I think it's possible that it's a bit of a misdirect because remember how they fooled everybody with Quicksilver in WandaVision. Everybody was 100% convinced that, well, John, he said he's Quicksilver. Yeah, but I bet he's not. And everybody got mad at me. But he wasn't Quicksilver. It was a giant misdirect. And this is the same showrunner who ran that show. But I don't actually believe that's what they're doing. It could be a misdirect, but frankly, I don't think it is. I think it's Billy now. I wish it wasn't. I don't think that's the right decision. I never thought it was going to be Billy, but it seems like he's Billy. Okay. So, but again, I'm just putting it out there. Don't fall out of your seat and act all shocked and surprised if we get into the next episode or two and find out that that was a misdirect. I don't think that's what they're doing. I wouldn't put money on that. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I'm just saying it's a possibility. So if they do it, doesn't mean I was right because I'm saying I don't think that's what they're going to do. I'm just saying none of us should be surprised if they do that. That's all I'm saying. And who knows? We'll find out, Shane. They've done crazier things. All right. Next up, we have got Scott Brown, who writes, I recommend Terminator Zero. The trailer looked pretty good, I gotta say. It's an anime series on Netflix. It's the best thing this property has done since Terminator 2. The story, although the Sarah Connor Chronicles was pretty good. The Sarah Connor Chronicles was pretty good. Anyway, has done since Terminator 2. The story is awesome and it gets very deep with some fantastic voice acting. It moves the series forward and reinvents the wheel. Yeah, listen, I haven't watched, to be frank with you, I didn't even know it came out yet. But I remember I saw the trailer and I was like, that looks pretty good. So I haven't seen it yet. Again, I didn't even know it released, but I'm definitely interested in it. The trailer looked pretty sharp. So I'll have to sit down and give it a shot because your recommendation is good. And I thought the trailer looked pretty good. Thanks for that, Scott. All right. Next up, we've got Lord Helmet. Writes in 1 of 3, a little Spaceballs reference. Theory explaining Teen being Billy without multiverse shenanigans. In the ending of Doctor Strange 2, before Wanda died, there was a giant flash of red. The same inadvertent, grief-fueled, uncontrollable flash of red that came out of her in WandaVision, resulting in her creating her perfect sitcom life. I think in another moment of intense grief before she died, she somehow managed to recreate one or both of her children, complete with the sigil, so someone like Agatha or members of Avengers would hopefully not discover their existence. I know that doesn't explain the age up, but I don't think that really matters too much since Wanda aged them up more than once in WandaVision. Anyway, thoughts. It doesn't make any sense. Because even in WandaVision, they were never real. And they could only exist within that imaginary world she created. Again, I'm just going by the WandaVision logic. The logic they set up in WandaVision was that they were never actually real, and they could that illusion could only exist within that dome of fake reality she created. Therefore, they would have to break their own rules of logic, not real world logic, their own rules of logic, to say that he now exists outside of that in the real world and whatever. Well, you could make an argument they're not really in the real world per se. They're on the witch's road. But the point is her dome came down and her fake stuff couldn't exist in there anymore. So they're going to have to come up with some way, if it is indeed what it now appears to be, that he is indeed Wanda's son, they're going to have to come up with some ridiculous comic book way to explain it. The glass shards of Anotria were found in the rubble, and they used it and cast a spell on that, and then that manifested. They're going to have to do something ridiculous. There's no rational way to say that this is Wanda's son. She never had any kids. Period. End of statement. She never had kids. John, another universe, another reality existed where she had a kid. It doesn't matter. That got closed off. In this world, she never had kids. So for him to be what it seems that they're doing, for him to be Wanda's kid, they're going to have to come up with some nonsensical comic book way. And listen, I'm not saying I don't trust them to come up with something good. I'm not saying they can't come up with something good. They may very well come up with something good. And you know what? As much as I think it's ridiculous they're doing this, the episode was still good. And isn't that the thing that matters? Right? At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the show good? And even though I think it's kind of ridiculous that they're making this kid Wanda's son, and we'll see what they come up with to explain it, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, I still thought the episode was good. And if they continue to make it good, then fine. The kid is Wanda's son. If it works, it works. I'm not going to clutch my pearls and go, well, I don't think they should have made him Wanda's son. Therefore, I hate this show now. I'm not going to be one of those people. If the show's good, the show's good. And so far, it's good. So we'll see how they go. All right. Next up, we've got Ryan Jacob, who writes, the twins were aged up since Wanda was pregnant. True, in an imaginary fantasy world. Everybody conveniently forgets that. Anyway, so that logic is correct to me. No, it's not, because it was only in an imaginary fake world. Anyway, but in comics, Billy came about because his soul entering somebody else's body, in one version of the story. Maybe Wanda poofed to Mephisto to make a deal. Feige did tease her survival. Oh, wait, so was that one? Oh, no. Feige did tease her survival. I mean, yeah, again, listen. There are ways for them to... This is a comic book show. Of course there are ways you can make up anything you want. Including, what if she then poofed to the Lord of the Hells and then made a deal with the Lord of the Hells that manifest my kid into a real boy, even though I'm not going to be there to see it. I mean, you can do it. That is what you just said, Ryan, is absolutely a possibility. But I've had so many people say to me what you just said, Ryan, that, well, John, they aged, because the age is a problem, right? The kids we saw that Wanda had in another universe were the wrong age. Those were real. In that other universe, those version of Wanda's kids were real. They were biologically real. They were born and they aged normally. The only way you can apply well, in the show they aged up quick is if you're talking about the version of those boys that weren't real, that were imaginary, that were figments of Wanda's creation, that as soon as her bubble came down, they disappeared. So the aged up theory works, but only if you're talking about the imaginary boys that weren't real. And then if you do want to talk about the boys that were real in another dimension, those boys were biological and they would age normally. So again, it's a comic book show. They'll come up with something. I'm just saying, let's not pretend like it's not going to have to be something a little bit ridiculous. So we'll see. But again, bottom line, is the show good? And if it's good, then it's all fine. All right. Next up. Anonymously Bloody writes, in a few hours, it's Terrifier 3 game day. I have pre-ordered my pizza, extra red sauce, and my slushie, extra red syrup. Plus, I might sneak in a Sloppy Joe burger extreme or extra meaty sauce. I'm a gore whore, okay? So how'd you like me now, Dr. Stinky? Oh, the reason he's mentioning Dr. Stinky is because the last couple of days, Dr. Stinky wrote in, it's like, man, I don't know, these Terrifier movies, you got to be kind of sick to appreciate them. I mean, obviously, just in fun movie friends talk. Again, listen, I love that people enjoy Terrifier. It's not my cup of tea. I didn't personally think it was very good, but that doesn't mean I don't hope other people find it good. And I am excited for those of you who have been looking forward to it. And today for you is indeed game day. All right. Next up, we got James B. who writes, I really like Rings of Power Season 2, and I think it has made Season 1 better too. You know what? I think I agree. I think Season 2 has made... I still don't think Season 1 was very good. Let's just call it what it is. But I think it's made it a little... I think Season 2 has made Season 1 a little bit better. Still not good, at least to me. But at least a little bit less bad. Anyway, annoying we had to wait for Season 2 to enjoy Season 1, but it is what it is. Since I've finished watching, YouTube has been pushing video after video saying why Season 2 is terrible. Why does hate sell? Well, hate sells because hate sells. I mean, it just does. Listen, there was even... It came across in a congressional hearing when they brought in a bunch of social media people. Listen, it's now documented fact that say like Facebook purposely feeds people things they will be angry about because that generates more interest. Hate sells. Just does. That's why you got a number of, like a whole bunch of outlets, be they podcasts or blogs or YouTube channels, that all they crank out is hate material because they know that's what gets clicks. You know, I've said before, like one of the things that really discourages me about the YouTube space at all, including my own and YouTube viewer behavior, is that I've noticed that, you know me, I have a policy. I want to be able to look at the front page of my YouTube channel and see at least 80 to 90% of it is talking about things that I think are super interesting or things I enjoy and things I like. Now, I say 80 to 90% because every once in a while, something's going to happen in the movie world or something that I don't like. You know, whether that's Joker 2 or whether it's like the length of commercials in movie theaters or something, right? Of course, you can't be a movie fan without having things you don't like. What discourages me is that I find that even when I maintain that 80 to 90% of my videos need to be about things that I find super interesting or that I super love, the things that get the most views are the videos where I'm mad about something. And the videos I make where I'm mad about something, that's just me being honest and talking about things I'm mad at. I don't go out of my way to just create things I'm mad about. 80 to 90% has to be about things I find interesting or really fun and things I enjoy. But it's one of the things that turns me off of YouTube is that social media stuff will purposefully, like, because if Facebook does it, you know others do it as well. Twitter does it, and you know YouTube probably does it too. They will feed you more hateful things because those are the things that tend to get the more clicks and more engagement. So yeah, it is what it is. And I don't like that that's the way it is, but it's the way it is. And there are outlets, again, blogs and YouTube channels and podcasts that just then kind of whore themselves out to that, saying, well, that's what gets clicks, so let's just make hateful stuff. Let's just make angry videos, and let's just make hateful things, and let's just make podcasts or blog posts about things that make us angry and things we hate, and let's make thumbnails and put the big googly eyes on them. And it is what it is. And it's one of the reasons that I'm kind of looking forward to getting off of YouTube in the next, year or two. So anyway, that's just me. All right. Thanks, James, for that. I appreciate it. All right. Next up, Sir Ivan Bennett writes, hey there, Campea crew. Writing in today with an awesome recommendation. I saw Saturday Night. I'm so excited to see Saturday Night. I saw Saturday Night last weekend, and it was amazing. It had great acting and directing and left me with a whole new respect for Lorne Michaels and the original Saturday Night Live cast. Go see it. I'll tell you what, this was, I've been super excited about this just because of who the director is. Jason Reitman, the guy who did Juno, the guy who did Up in the Air, the guy who did Thank You for Smoking. I loved, son of Ivan Reitman. I love Jason Reitman. Good Canadian kid, by the way. And just the fact that he was making this got me instantly interested in it. I love the trailer for it. It did not open anywhere near me when it had a limited release last week, but now it is out, and I'm just kind of waiting for Anne to get back from Paris so I can go see it. And I'm really excited about seeing this movie, man. Thank you for the recommendation. All right, next up. Let's see here. Sir Ivan Bennett writes, here's a message for the amazing Chris Carr, who is not here today because the whole crew has the day off. Are you and Logan going to New York Comic Con next week? Would it be nice? Yeah, I honestly don't have any idea. I don't think she's going to New York Comic Con next week. Maybe she is. I don't know off the top of my head. So unfortunately, I cannot answer that question for you. All right. Next up, we've got Baby Boy 8603 writes, hey, everyone. Is there a difference between your favorite and best? Oh, we have this discussion all the time. For example, my favorite MCU film is Guardians of the Galaxy, but I also think the best MCU film is Infinity War. Does that make any sense? Thanks. This is honestly a discussion, Baby Boy, we've had many times, all the time. So to sum it up, I used to think for most of my career, I used to think that there was a difference between what is your favorite thing and what you think is the best thing. I thought that for many years. I even thought that just up to maybe a year or two ago. I don't think I believe that anymore. Look, entertainment is art, and art is purely subjective. And every piece of art will hit you and the person next to you a little bit differently, or maybe a lot differently. And movies and TV shows are, by their nature, experiential events. They give us an experience. And the experience you have, because all art is subjective, will be a little bit different than the experience the person next to you gets from that same piece of content. And if all art is subjective, and it is, that's a fact. And if entertainment, particularly movies and TV shows, are experiential events, then why do we say there's a difference between what gave us the best experience, our favorite, versus what is the best experience? I'm not so sure I believe there's a distinction anymore. If something to me is my favorite, then does that not mean that to me that's the best? Let's take it to the discussion of food. If I take a bite of one hamburger and I like it the most, to me, it's the one that made my taste buds celebrate the most. Why would I say this other burger is the best one, even if I enjoyed this one more? You see what I'm saying? Like if you take a bite of two different burgers, and this is the one that gave you the most joy, and this is the one that made your taste buds explode, why would you take a bite out of the other one and say, well, this is the best one, but I like this one the most? No. To you, the one that gave your taste buds the most joy, that's the best one to you. Why do we not look at it the same way with the entertainment? Again, I am not saying this is etched in stone. I'm not saying this is different than what I thought a couple of years ago, and it might be different than what I think a few years from now. But right now, I'm kind of in a place of, if something is my favorite, then does that not mean that to me, that thing is the best? If that burger is your favorite, then to you, is that burger not the best burger out of the two? Well, I didn't like this burger as much, but it's the better burger. Why? Why would you say that? If this burger is the one that made you happiest, if this burger is the one that to you that was the most delicious, if this burger to you is the one you enjoyed eating the most, why would you say the other burger is better? You wouldn't. So why do we do that with movies and TV? Again, it's still a thought process that I'm just going through and is evolving, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got Anonymous, who writes, "Hey, John, you now WB executive. Okay. You watching what happened with Joker 2, then you received the script for Batman 2. Reeves is in your office telling you that he has this crazy $200 million idea for the second part. Idea that you suspect it will not work. What do you do? If I don't think it's going to work, then I take it to other people. And then I get their thoughts as well. Art is a collaborative thing often. At least the movie business. Making movies takes the work of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. I would take it to other people I also trust. And if every other person I trust looks at it and says, we don't think this will work, then I'll have to say to Matt, you need to go back to the drawing board. I appreciate that you like it, Matt, means a lot to me, but literally every other person that we have in the building, when we all look at it, we all don't feel good about it. We can't put our money behind it. That's what Kevin Feige did with Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Feige have both confirmed that Ryan and his team came to Kevin with several pitches for Deadpool 3. And Kevin Feige turned them all down until they came to him with the one that Kevin thought worked. It's not that Kevin didn't trust Ryan Reynolds. He trusted that Ryan could do better. If Matt Reeves came to me with an idea for Batman 2 that I truly in my heart did not feel would work, and then I took that pitch to other professionals and they all felt it didn't work, then I would have to go back to Matt Reeves and say, this isn't the one. Not because I don't trust Matt Reeves, but because I trust that Matt Reeves can be better than the pitch he just gave me. I believe in Matt Reeves enough that I know he can come back to me with a pitch that's better than the first one he brought me. And that's your job as a film executive. That's your job as a film executive. Now, I can't believe that Matt Reeves would come to me with an idea that I think would fail, but if he did, and I went to other people I trust, and they all said the same thing, that they felt the same way I did, that this isn't going to work, then you got to be honest with your partner filmmaker, and say, this one isn't it. Go back to the drawing board. Come back with something else. That's what Kevin Feige did with Ryan Reynolds and Sean, and eventually they came back with one that worked, and look what the result was. A $1.3 billion movie, that now the new highest grossing R-rated film of all time. I think it's like number 21 or 22 of the highest grossing movies ever made. That's the job. That's what you got to do. You got to do it. All right. Good question. All right. Next up. Also from Anonymous writes, hey, John, I noticed similarities in your opinion on Joker 2's focus on consequences of Joker 1 and how you've talked about Dune Messiah's future adaptation. Is your fear for Villeneuve's Messiah that fans will reject it as Joker fans did to Folie à Deux? Well, no, it's a little bit different. I mean, I am very nervous about Dune Messiah because, quite frankly, I don't think the source material is all that good. There's a lot of Dune books. I think all of them get progressively worse. And I think there's a lot of stuff in Dune Messiah that I think the audience will completely reject. Now, there are diehard fans of the novel. That's great. But I'm sorry, I just think if you do a direct translation of Dune Messiah to the screen, I think there's a lot of stuff in there that the audience is going to reject. So I really do hope that, just like Denis did do a lot of adaptation for Dune 1 and Dune 2, I hope he continues to do a lot of adaptation for Messiah. Because I don't think Messiah, as a direct translation, is going to work with the audience. I don't think it will. I could be wrong about that. Obviously, I could be wrong about it, of course. And I hope that I am. But that's my fear, man. That's my fear. All right. Xanderman writes, "Hey, John and crew. I wanted to see if anyone watched Scavenger's Reign, never heard of it, on Max and Netflix. It is an animated show where a crew crashes on an unfamiliar planet and try to survive. The creature design is imaginative. The setting is chilling. I highly recommend it." Well, you know what? I don't think I've heard of it before, Xanderman, but I appreciate you putting it on my radar. And I'll be honest with you, that actually does sound kind of cool to me. So I will put it on my radar and see if I can stumble across it a little bit later. Thanks for putting it there, man. I appreciate the recommendation. All right. Let's see. Xanderman also writes, "How do you keep track of all the movies and shows you watch?" I don't really, to be honest with you. I started using Tracked, and I like how it can track both movies and TV, plus automatically keep track of what I am watching on Netflix. And I can even get RSS feeds or calendars for my own list. You know what? I have thought about there are many apps out there that do that same thing. And I have thought about getting myself to start to use something like that, because I admittedly have had shows that I've watched and then just forgot to keep watching them. A great example is From. From is a great show. I watched season 1 and I completely loved it. And then I just forgot about it. They're on season 3 now. I've never seen a single episode of season 2, despite the fact that I loved season 1. Another good example of it is Better Call Saul. I was watching Better Call Saul. I really like Better Call Saul. And then I just forgot about it. I lost track of it. I just forgot about it. And before I knew it, I was like 2 seasons behind and I just never bothered getting caught up. So there are a number of apps out there that do something like that. And I should probably look into them, because I'm one of the guys that really kind of need it. All right, next up, Xanderman also writes, "I'm super excited for Arcane to release next month, but if you can't wait, I recommend watching the behind-the-scenes series on YouTube called Bridging the Rift. It is 5 episodes highlighting the animation, music, and sound effects, voice acting, and more." I'm probably not interested in that myself, but I do love Arcane, man. Arcane Season 1 to me is my favorite animated series of all time. And even if it's just one season, it's my favorite animated show of all time. I cannot wait for Season 2 to start. All right. Next up, Cantello72 writes, "Currently on vacation in the Philippines." Have fun, man. Went and seen Transformers 1, and the USA theaters could learn from the theaters here. Movie's scheduled time was 3:15. Trailer started at 3:05, and the movie started at 3:17 p.m. I agree, the movie is great. Okay, first of all, yes, Transformers 1 is great. If you haven't seen it, and according to the box office, most of you haven't, you're missing out. It's a great film, even though it's flopping. Anyway, yeah, man. Listen, I won't go off on my normal rant, but 100%. If you say the movie starts at 7, you should start the movie very, very close to 7. You want to show trailers? Show trailers before the advertised start time. And I've said this too. I think you can fix this problem. I think there should be a law. There are a lot of laws that are out there to protect consumers. Moviegoers are consumers. I think there should be a law that because the theaters get around to saying, "Oh no, we don't say that the movie time is 7. We say show time is 7. And us showing a half hour of commercials is a part of the show." Okay, you want to play games like that, assholes? Fine. Make a rule, make a law that says you can say 7 p.m. showtime, but it should also be a law that you actually put on the listing what time the movie starts. 7 p.m. showtime, 7:31 movie start time. 6:30 p.m. showtime, 6:59 p.m. movie start time. It should be a rule and a law. If you're paying for a movie ticket, there should be a rule and a law that says you actually advertise when the movie itself starts, when the thing that you paid for actually begins. That should be a law. You can say showtime 6:30. That's fine. Say that. Showtime 6:30. Bracket movie start time 6:58. I think that should be a rule, and I don't think that's unreasonable. All right. Next up, Reese Jones says, with its release in the UK today, I finally saw Transformers 1, and I absolutely love it. It's so good, man. Reese, I'm so glad you took the time to go see it, because very, very few people did. It's bombing so hard, but it's so good. It's the Transformers movie I've waited my whole life for. All right. Let's see. Scooby Drool tips in like a $25 tip. Thank you, Scooby, for supporting us on that level, man. And Scooby writes, part 1 of 2. Hey, John and Happy Crew, just me today. A couple of days ago, I asked you, will Hollywood studios refuse to hire Todd Phillips as a result of the disastrous Joker 2? And you said Joker 2 won't have any impact of Todd Phillips not getting hired by any studio. I didn't say not any impact. I said I don't think that'll be the make or break. Anyway, then I remembered back when Josh Trank directed the terrible Fantastic Four, 2015. And as a result, we never heard from him again. That's not true. You're not remembering the situation right. Let me explain it in a second here. And as a result, we never heard from him again directing any major movie from a studio. So tell me, why is Josh Trank's different experience from Todd Phillips? There's a million things why. The situation with Josh Trank is not apples to apples. It's not even apples to oranges with Todd Phillips. You're trying to compare apples to spaceships. First of all, Josh Trank's Fantastic Four wasn't his. The studio re-edited his movie and reshot a whole bunch of stuff without him. The movie that we got ultimately wasn't Josh Trank's movie. Josh Trank's movie was going to be better than the one they put out in theaters, right? There was the whole drama behind it. Yeah, the studio literally locked Josh Trank out of the editing room. They literally reshot a bunch of stuff without him, then re-edited it. Again, at the end of the day, the Fantastic Four movie that we got was, even though Josh Trank's name was still on it, Josh Trank has been very clear. That's not my movie. That is not the movie I've envisioned. That is not the movie I put together. Okay. Secondly, the thing that got people stopped working with Josh Trank wasn't Fantastic Four, because everybody in Hollywood knew that ultimately wasn't his movie. It's because of all the drama that happened. And I'm not going to go into it all here. You can go and look it up yourself. But there was a whole bunch of allegations and behind the scenes drama about, now whether it was true or not is up for you to decide for yourself. But there was a lot of things about him trashing houses and not showing up to set. And again, how much of it was true and how much of it wasn't true, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it was all that drama that made, because remember, he was going to direct a Boba Fett movie for Star Wars. Star Wars had announced they were going to make a Boba Fett movie with Josh Trank. And then after all that stuff came out about him and his on-set behavior, alleged, Star Wars decided they didn't want to work with him anymore. The other thing you're missing is, in trying to compare the Todd Phillips situation to the Josh Trank one, is Todd Phillips has a massive success record on his resume. Whether you're talking about Hangover or a $1 billion Oscar-winning film in Joker. Josh Trank had no $1 billion Oscar-winning films on his resume. So, number one, the Fantastic Four movie wasn't his, and everybody in Hollywood knew it. Number two, the reason people stopped working with him was because of all the reports that came out about his on-set behavior. Alleged. Number three, Todd Phillips has a resume filled with big hits. Some misses too, absolutely, but big hits. Josh Trank did not. He had a kind of a sleeper hit in Chronicle, a movie that I absolutely love, by the way, but it was not a $1 billion film. Actually, let me look this up. Chronicle, what did it make at the box office? Chronicle made, which I love that movie, by the way, Dane DeHaan, Michael B. Jordan. It made $126 million at the box office. Todd Phillips is a filmmaker with Oscars and $1 billion films and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, One movie flop is not going to stop studios from working with Todd Phillips. And studios didn't stop working with Josh Trank because one movie flopped. It was something completely different. So your attempt at comparing the situation of Josh Trank to Todd Phillips is completely misplaced. They're totally different scenarios, totally different circumstances, totally different reasons. One had nothing to do with the other. So there's really no point in Scoob trying to compare the two situations because they were radically different from each other. One had nothing to do with the other. All right. Thanks for writing in, though, and asking, man. See, if you have a misunderstanding about something, ask about it, and hopefully I was just able to clarify that for you. So thank you for writing in the question, man. I appreciate it. And thank you again for sponsoring us or for supporting us on such a level, dude. All right. Tender Whispers writes, over or under 50% that the Joker 2 has a greater than 65% drop on its second weekend box office. Personally, I'm taking the over. Okay, so on the one hand, I want to guess that it's going to be over a 65% drop, but not a lot of people saw it opening weekend. And there might be a bunch of people that go, everybody's talking about Joker 2 and how bad. I might want to go see for myself. So I don't know. I guess if I was forced to put $5 on it, my guess it would take over a 65% drop. I don't feel comfortable with that, but if I had to put a bet on it, I would bet it would take over a 50% drop. All right. Next up, Scooby Drill again writes in and says, I am excited for New York Comic Con coming October 17th through 20th. Can't wait. Got my 4-day badge. Totally excited. I know I will be spending a lot of cash for Comic Con stuff. Question, what items do you recommend I should not buy / avoid at Comic Con? Well, I mean, look, you spend your money on whatever gives you joy. Just be responsible, right? Don't spend money that you need to spend on your car insurance. Don't spend money that you need to spend on your rent. Don't spend money on money you need to feed yourself or whatever. Just be responsible. That's the only thing. I would highly recommend at something like Comic-Con, it's not so much things as in buy food at the store and keep it in your hotel, right? Eat out once or twice, but I know a lot of people who've spent a lot of money at Comic-Con just eating out 3 meals a day. You can save a lot of money, man, if you just even take a run to 7-Eleven and buy some stuff that you can keep in your room and have a couple of meals in your room rather than eating out every single day. You can save a lot of money there. After that, dude, whatever makes your heart happy. If you see a figure that's $400 and you can afford $400, go ahead. But I would say just be responsible. Don't get crazy. But really a big place you can save a lot of money is by not eating out every single meal of the day. That's a huge thing. All right. Tender Whispers writes, some time ago, I thought I read that there was a remake of Arachnophobia in development. I think I remember hearing something about that. After seeing the brilliant French killer spider film Infested earlier this year, I did not see that. I'm clamoring for more killer spiders. Have you heard anything about this remake? No. And this is one of the things, Tender, that I kind of remind people of a lot. Like, the announcement of something being in development is very, very different from something that has been given a green light. John, don't you have to be greenlit to go into development? No. Development is all the things you do to get a green light. The green light means, okay, you can start spending the money. You can start spending the studio's money. Development is something different. Developing means, okay, we got the rights to something. We're going to pull in a couple of writers. So you are spending a little bit of money, but we're going to pull in writers. We're going to see if we can get a director attached. We're going to see if we can get some actors attached. And once you do, then the studio will look and say, okay, green light, go. Here's the check. Put it in the bank account for the project. Start spending the studio's money. Go ahead. And the reality is that out of every 50 to 100 things that go into development, actually end up getting a green light. And so there a lot of times people writing saying, I heard they were going to develop this, or I heard this studio got the rights to this. Where's the movie? The reality is they probably never got to a place that a studio was willing to greenlight it. They said, yeah, investigate it. Yeah, see if you can make something out of this. Yes, develop something to see if we can get a package here that we think will actually work, and then we'll give the green light. But I think film fans got to remember that a lot of things go into development that never actually get a green light. And maybe the arachnophobia thing was one of those, because I think you're right. I think I remember something about that as well. Okay, next up, Rob Buck writes, I was never a Voltron guy, but I'm obviously a huge Power Rangers guy. I'm glad Cavill is doing this movie because hopefully movies like this put the spotlight back on my favorite franchise growing up. More power to the Lion Bots. Yeah, listen, again, one of the reasons that I'm very excited, Rob, about the idea of Voltron is not just for Voltron, although I am looking forward to it, but is hopefully it will open up the possibility for other projects like Grandizer, Spaceketeers, Robotech, G-Force, things like that. I'm not so sure it would help Power Rangers. Power Rangers have gotten several kicks at the can. And by the way, I actually kind of liked the last Power Rangers movie that came out. I liked it. I did. I make no apologies for that. Let me see if I can, but the movie itself, even though I liked it, it was 2017. Dacre Montgomery, who was also in Stranger Things. I love Naomi Scott. Good Canadian kid, Ludi Lin, is in it. But here's the reality. That Power Rangers movie made worldwide $142 million. I don't know that if Voltron works, that means another studio is going to go, let's do Power Rangers again. Because it was only like 7 years ago that they tried to do Power Rangers. They put money into it. They got a good cast and it still didn't do well. And by the way, I thought it was pretty good. I actually thought the movie was kind of entertaining. I mean, it wasn't great, but I thought it was all right. But yeah, unfortunately, it just did not work for them, unfortunately. Okay. Let's see. Next up, TJ writes, John, have you ever heard of Banshee? Just kidding. I'm glad you're kidding. Whatever happened to Paris? Ray got COVID and everyone stayed home and she never came back. I don't know why this is such a big mystery to people. So Paris Rose, who is wonderful, by the way, when Paris came on, we said it as loudly as we could. We put it on every community bulletin. We said it out loud. We got somebody coming in for a few weeks. We said, this is Paris Rose. She's going to be helping us out for a few weeks. So Paris came in and she helped us actually a little bit longer than we were anticipating. She helped us for a few weeks and then her time with us ended. What happened to her was she did exactly what we asked her to do. She came in to help us for a few weeks. Now, by the way, I have been talking to Paris about maybe doing something new for us. I probably shouldn't even say that because I don't know what will come about. But I am talking to Paris about maybe doing something new that may or may not transpire. I don't know for sure, but we're talking. But yes, I don't know why I continue to get questions about that because we were so very, very, very clear from day one, even before day one. I put up the community announcements that this is Paris. She's going to be coming in to help us for a little while, for a few weeks. And anyway, that was that. But anyway, still talking to her about something a little bit different. But I'll let you guys know if and when there is if there is ever something to actually know. Okay. Next up, Maverick writes, since Henry Cavill will be busy with Highlander reboot and Voltron, will he have time to make his Warhammer 40K show? Is there an update? I haven't heard any update on Warhammer, but here's the other thing. When an actor does a movie, everybody thinks that takes up all the actor's time. The reality is, on most movies, not all, there are exceptions, but But on most movies, an actor spends 2 or 3 months on it. A movie can take a year and a half to make, but the actual actor's part in that is much smaller. They have to be. So the an actor can make 4 or 5 movies a year. I mean, that's really busy, but we've seen some actors do like 3, 4, sometimes more movies in a single year. Why? Because a lot of times, an actor is only on set for a few weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months. There are rare exceptions when an actor is needed to be on location and set for more than that. But yeah, it's really not. So I haven't heard any updates on the Warhammer project. I'm sure that's going to be a very long developing, long gestating project. I'm just saying, Henry doing Highlander and Henry doing Voltron in no way prevents him from, if they were ready to roll on Warhammer 40K, he could probably do that in 2025 if they were ready to roll on Warhammer. So I don't really know what the status is, but Henry doing these other movies will not prevent him from being able to do Warhammer. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Next up. Riza Stole My Heart writes, you've said that you're thinking of retiring at the end of 2025 or by the end of 2025. Yeah. But will you do a one-off stream for Doomsday and Secret Wars? I don't know why people like talking about me retiring, but at any rate, when I retire, it will probably be from retiring from, doing the John Campea Show. I've already said I will probably still do like a 2, maybe 3 time a week audio only podcast, and maybe even keep the YouTube channel open and like maybe do the odd out of theater reaction or stuff like that. But yes, there will probably be nothing stopping me from when I see Doomsday and Secret Wars from doing some kind of online reaction. I mean, yeah, that will probably still happen. Yes. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got the George Lopez Show writes, "Hey, Campea and crew. First time writing in. Thank you so much for that, man. I appreciate that. My buddy Marco, a big fan of your show, is getting married this week. Aw, that's awesome. And I was hoping you could give him a shout out. Well, we just did. Thanks, guys. And bring on the filthy." Yes. Well, first of all, that is awesome that your buddy's getting married. It's something that happens to you hopefully once in a lifetime. So big shout out to your friend Marco. And I hope Marco has a wonderful, awesome, and blessed wedding day. That's exciting. Good for him. All right. Next up, we got Mega Red 555 who writes, "Hey, Campea crew, happy Friday. Saw Hans Zimmer last Saturday. Such a good show. And wow, what a concert. Best concert I've been to. I teared up during Man of Steel. So did I. I literally teared up when he was playing Man of Steel. I'm not even kidding. And Gladiator, and the waterworks started during The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight was my teenage year fixation. Absolutely stunning. It was so good. And my wife, Anne, because her like favorite movies in the world are the Dune movies. So when he started playing Dune, yeah, and they had the girl who actually does the voice of it in the movie going, like all like Anne started crying. When they started playing Man of Steel, I started crying. It was such a good show, guys. If you ever get the chance, I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you ever get the chance to see Hans Zimmer in concert, absolutely go. All right, Mega Red also follows it up and writes, "Saw a Different Man on Wednesday. Wow, incredible movie. It's the Substance's depressed, quiet brother. Never seen Sebastian Stan in anything other than Bucky till now." Oh, he's really good. I've seen him in a number of things. He's amazing. Looking forward to him in The Apprentice. Yeah, listen, I hesitate to get into The Apprentice on our show. Look, I saw the trailer. I thought it looked great. But, I try to keep as much as I can. I try to keep true politics out of my show. Now, there are times I will talk about issues that are more human issues than political issues. Equality for people, respect for people. That to me is not political issues. That's just not being a dirtbag asshole issues, right? Just be a decent human being issues. Some people will try to conflate ideas of people deserve respect and people deserve equality and all as being political issues. They're not. Those are just be a decent human being issues to me. But anyway, I try to keep politics out of my show as much as I can. I don't always succeed. But the reason I try to keep politics out of this show is because of this. And this is the rare. Now, I'll talk about politics on my personal social media channels, right? Like on my personal Instagram or on my personal Facebook. I will talk about political issues because those aren't the John Campea movie show. This is the John Campea movie show, that. But I try to keep it out of my show as much as I can. And therefore, talking about The Apprentice by nature is delving into politics because we are very soon going to be having a presidential election in the United States, right? So I've kind of chosen to sidestep talking about The Apprentice much, even though I think the trailer's good. I mean, just as a movie, it looks good. Whatever it has to say, I haven't seen the movie, but I'm just saying that, yeah, the trailer looks good, but I try to avoid it. But I'm sorry, guys, but when you have a dirtbag sack of shit like Donald Trump running for president, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And it's very tough because there are friends of mine who are like Republicans who have conservative values. Nothing wrong with it. I myself have a number of things that I believe are conservative issues that I lean more towards other people who have conservative values than I do towards my people who have more progressive values. I do, but you literally had a guy on television saying, these people are eating other people's pets. And then those people get threats and feel unsafe. You literally have this guy who just stands up at a microphone and just lies. He doesn't even care. Donald Trump said to his own press secretary, who has come out and publicly let this be known. He said to his own White House press secretary, hey, it doesn't matter if what we say is true. Just say it enough and people will believe it. This guy running for president actually said that to his own White House press secretary. It doesn't matter if what we say is true. As long as we say it enough, people will believe it. So then you just had this guy, as people are suffering, our fellow film-loving brothers and sisters are suffering in a number of states because of the hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. And he gets out and says, he just makes shit up and he gets out and says, well, you know, the current administration is diverting disaster money away from Republican areas. And Republican governors have had to come out and say, that's not true. That's bullshit. Anyway, it makes it very, very difficult for me to not talk about this shit. Like when Obama was running against McCain, it's easy because you had two honorable people who I think for the most part just both wanted what was best for their country, even though they had wildly different ideas about what that was about. Or when, what's his name? The guy who just recently lost, the guy from Utah. Anyway. Hey, a guy who's a lot of policies I don't necessarily agree with, but, you know, they two different ideas. We literally have a giant sack of shit running for president. And I cannot believe after all the things that this guy, and you know what I really can't believe? I'm really going off on it now. You can tell I'm getting close to retiring. You got this guy who the Christian right, which humiliate me to no end as a theologian and as a Bible college guy and as all that kind of stuff. It just embarrasses the hell out of me. You literally have a guy who lies through his teeth, sells Bibles with his name on it, has been married 3 times, 5 different children through different sets of wives, cheated on each of his wives with the ones who would become his wife, and then had an affair with a porn star and used political delineated money to hide and cover up his affair with a porn star while married, and has been a 34 criminal convictions, is a convicted criminal. And there are people still considering voting for him because they have conservative values. It's just crazy to me. Anyway. You know what? That's the reason I avoid talking politics on my channel, because I go off and I really shouldn't. But anyway, that's just that. Anyway. Okay. And that's why I don't talk about the Apprentice trailer. Woo! I went off on a side angle there, didn't I? Way off the rails there. But hey, listen. Despite anything I say, can I just end with this? Despite anything I just said on my own personal feelings, every individual needs to decide what's important to them. I would just encourage everybody, look at what facts are and look at what truth is. But at the end of the day, you determine what's important to you, which values are important to you. And I encourage everybody, I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on, go out and vote. Vote your conscience, vote your beliefs, and just take whatever I just said and put it aside. Everybody should go out and vote. Everybody should participate in this civic exercise. And whether you're voting for the same person I would vote for or not, go out there and vote for whatever guides you in your conscience. Anyway, okay. With that all said, let's move on, shall we? Logan Vaughn writes, excited to see Nightmare Before Christmas tonight at my AMC. Nice. My 2-year-old is obsessed with this movie. My wife and I are taking him for his first movie theater trip. I think a 31-year-old 80-minute animated movie is a perfect pilot for a toddler. Wish us luck. And best of luck to you. You know what's funny? Going around our neighborhood, Ann and I are lucky enough to live in a neighborhood where all of our neighbors in our neighborhood love decorating. They decorate for Thanksgiving. They decorate for Christmas. They decorate for Halloween. And as we go walking around our block, we go on a long walk every night. And as we walk around our block, so many houses go to the nth degree to put out Halloween. And so many of them have Nightmare Before Christmas stuff out on their lawns, like these giant blow up things, smaller things. It is incredible what an influence that movie continues to have even today. All right. Let's see. Next up. Logan sends in a $20 tip. Thank you, Logan, for supporting us on that level, man. Appreciate that. Hey, John, been listening to your insight for over 10 years now. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Genuine question. What is usually the level of validity, if any, in regards to news about movie test screenings? Almost no validity. I notice reliable outlets don't run any news on it. Yeah, listen. My basic rule of thumb is this. Whenever you hear a story, because remember, when there are test screenings and press screenings, people have to sign NDAs. They have background checks put on them. They have to sign contracts that say, we will not speak about this to anybody. And their lives could be ruined if a studio found out that they leaked stuff. That's not to say it never happens. I'm not saying that. I know somebody's going to try to put those words in my mouth. I'm not saying that. But at this test screening, it got a standing ovation. Lies. This test screening, people said it was a disaster. Lies. Unless an actual director or actor or actual studio executive who would know say, we had a test screening and we had these results. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. That's why you never see me do a story, unless it came from a director or an actor. You will never see me do a story of test audiences say this about a movie, because it is a 99% chance, not 100%, it's a 99% chance that that's bullshit. That it's complete bullshit. So, not to say that it's impossible that it could be true, but there's such a high probability that it's bullshit, and we've seen that happen so many times that it's just not worth you paying any attention to. Again, if the studio head says, hey, we did these test screenings and we had these results. Okay, well, that person would actually know, and you could probably give it a little bit of credence. Not 100% credence, but at least a little bit. Anonymous person on Reddit says, I personally wouldn't, and I don't pay any attention to that myself. Again, just me personally. All right. Last question of the day comes to us from Nick Schmidt, who writes, hey, John, I'm with you on the teen possibly not being Billy. Again, I think they've made it clear that he probably is. I'm just saying it's possible he's not. Could be a misdirect. My question is, if it is Billy, then why are we hiding it? Also, if it is him, where's his brother? That second part is one of my biggest questions. It looks like they're saying this is Billy, all right? I mean, I haven't thought this whole time, I haven't thought they would, because it makes no sense. But it now appears I was wrong, and it appears that they are saying that this is Billy. It might not be, might be a misdirect, but all things kind of look like they're saying it's Billy. Okay. Where's his brother? Where's the other one? In the iteration we saw both in WandaVision and in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, those two are tight and they did not separate. They're super tight. So if he is Billy, I'm not saying this proves it isn't Billy. I'm just saying it raises the question, where's his brother? Where's his brother? Why are they not together? Again, they can come up with an explanation. 100% they can. And I'm saying his brother not being there does not prove it's not Billy. I'm just saying it does raise the question. Where is his brother? I am asking myself that same thing, Nick. But we have 4 more episodes of the show to go, and they may very well address those questions in the last 4 episodes. So let's see what they have to say. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast on this solo day where I gave everybody else the day off. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number 1, because it gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Join us again, guys, on Monday. I will probably not do an open mic this weekend because I haven't seen Ann all week. She's coming back later today from her trip to Paris with Kat. I cannot wait to have her back. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for me. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.